3 years into a secret marriage with a billionaire CEO, I chose the most boring Tuesday in September to hand in my divorce papers and my resignation. Manhattan was sweltering. The noon sun hit the pavement like a physical weight as I walked out of the city clerk's office. I shoved my copy of the divorce decree into my jeans pocket. The paper was still warm from the printer. The other copy sat in Claire Miller's manicured hands for a second before she slid it into her six-figure Hermes Birkin without a word. "Take the car back yourself." I glanced at the black Maybach S680 idling at the curb. I sounded like I was reciting the weather. "My bags are at the security desk. My new place in Brooklyn is close enough to walk." "Ethan," she finally spoke. Her voice was cold. It was the tone of a woman used to being the most powerful person in any room. But if you listened closely, there was a hairline fracture in her composure. "Is this really about the $5,000 raise I gave Alex, or the $50,000 pay cut you took when I moved you to logistics?" I stopped. I didn't look back. I just gave a sharp single nod. Of course. That was the only logic her corporate brain could process. A handsome, overachieving male assistant versus a quiet, invisible husband who worked in the shadows of her own company. It was a classic play of power and neglect. I heard the frantic click of her stilettos on the concrete. She caught up and blocked my path. For the first time in 3 years, those icy, beautiful eyes of hers showed something that looked like genuine panic. "Wait." She took a breath, her gaze piercing. "What about the series of funding you negotiated for Apex Tech? The contracts are illegal. That investment isn't going to change, right?" I stared at her for 3 seconds. Then I laughed. It wasn't a bitter sound. It was the sound of a man who had finally put down a heavy suitcase. "Miller," I used the formal tone I usually reserve for board meetings. "Don't worry. Investment is investment. Divorce is divorce. I'm a professional." I stepped around her and walked toward the crosswalk. The sun pulled my shadow long across the street. I felt lighter than I had in years. Claire stood there, her knuckles white as she gripped her bag. She couldn't understand it. She couldn't grasp why the man who had been her absolute safety net for 3 years could walk away with a smile. But that was the point. She didn't chase me to save the marriage. She didn't chase me to ask where I was going. She chased me because of a $5 million check that her new business line depended on. I had spent months securing that deal. I called in every favor from my Seattle tech days and worked my old roommate Ben, a top-tier VC, until he finally caved. I did it all while she was busy fighting off her cousins for control of the Miller board. I did the work, and I gave her the credit. Now that the marriage was over, her first thought was the bottom line. The light changed. I stepped into the Manhattan crowd, letting the rhythm of the city take me. The heat on my back felt like a release. 3 years ago, things looked different. It was a rainy night in Seattle, the kind where the neon lights of the city blur into the fog. We were in a private booth at a restaurant overlooking the Sound. Claire looked younger then. She was exhausted, her eyes rimmed with shadows from sleepless nights and the weight of her father's failing health. She was drowning. Her uncles were circling the company like sharks. We had been classmates in college. She was the star of the business school, and I was the tech geek who lived in the lab. "Ethan, I can't do this alone." She had whispered it into her wine glass. "I'm walking a tightrope, and everyone is waiting for me to fall. Marry me. You don't have to be part of the dirty politics. Just be the one person I can trust when the world gets too loud. In return, I'll give you a platform you could never reach on your own." She spoke like she was pitching a merger, but I saw the fear in her eyes. I said yes because I wanted to protect her. I left my career at a Silicon Valley giant and took a low-level project manager role at Miller Group. She said it was for my safety. Stay low, stay invisible. I believed her. The first year was a strange honeymoon. We lived in a secluded estate in the Hamptons. The neighbors thought I was a tenant. I woke up early to make her breakfast. She was gone before the sun was fully up. I drove an old Ford truck to work. At the office, she was the boss and I was the nobody. No one knew we shared a bed. I thought that was what a partnership looked like. I cleaned up her brother's legal messes and handled her mother's medical bills in secret. I thought I was being a husband, but the scale tipped. I built the supply chain system that saved her company $10 million a year. Her cousin took the trophy. I proposed the digital transformation plan. She shot it down only to let her favorite director pitch it 2 months later. Ethan, I know you're smart, but now isn't the time. She would say that with an impatient flick of her wrist. You're better off where you are. The mortgage, the utilities, the gifts for her family. It all came out of my salary. She drove the Maybach while I wore off-the-rack suits. I didn't care. I thought what was mine was hers. Then Alex arrived, the 28-year-old lead assistant. He was polished, he was fast, and he was everywhere. He knew her coffee order better than I did. He was the one standing next to her in every Instagram post and every press release. Then I saw his phone. His contact name for her was my queen. Claire saw me see it. She just laughed. Alex, people will talk if they see that. There was no anger in her voice, only the sound of a woman being flattered. Alex grinned. But Miller, you are the queen. I felt like a ghost in my own life. When I tried to talk to her about boundaries, she told me I was being sensitive. The breaking point was last month. The annual salary review came out. My department had record growth, but I was demoted to a back office role with a $50,000 pay cut. That same morning, Claire personally signed off on a $5,000 monthly raise for Alex. I sat in our dark living room until 1 a.m. The door didn't open with a key. It was the sound of the smart lock. Alex walked in, practically carrying a drunk Claire. She was leaning into him, her head on his shoulder. Alex didn't look guilty. He looked like the man of the house. Ethan, still up. Miller had a long night. I got her. He knew where the guest's slippers were. He knew which blanket she liked. He tucked her in with a practiced ease that made my stomach turn. He knew the house code that she had never bothered to give me. Take care of her, Ethan. He told me this like he was giving instructions to a janitor. Her stomach meds are in the second drawer. When the door clicked shut, I didn't scream. I just felt cold. 3 years of being a ghost was enough. The next morning, I made her breakfast for the last time. She woke up with a headache and a vague apology. Alex had to help me home. You don't mind, right? I looked at her. She was beautiful, but she was a stranger. Claire, I said it clearly. I want a divorce. She was shocked. Then she was furious. You're throwing away everything because you're jealous of an assistant. I'm leaving the company, too. I told her, you'll never find a better job than this. She snapped. Don't forget the non-compete. I remembered. I also remembered that I was the one who wrote the code for half her patents. Now, I stood in my new Brooklyn apartment. It was 600 square feet of brick and sunlight. It cost me half my savings, but it was mine. I opened my laptop and clicked on a hidden folder. Inside was microscale. It was a SaaS architecture I had been building in the middle of the night for 3 years. It was a solution for every inefficiency I saw at Miller Group. It was my future. I spent the next 2 months in a blur of coffee and code. I deleted my old socials. I changed my number. I told my parents I was starting over. Claire didn't call. I heard through the grapevine that she fired Alex for some ethics violation. Apparently, he wasn't as loyal as she thought. I didn't care. Then my old friend Ben called. Ethan, I showed your prototype to a partner at a boutique VC firm. He's obsessed. He wants to talk. We met at a quiet cafe in Soho. The partner, a guy named Wu, was blunt. It's early, but the logic is flawless. I can give you $1 million for 20%, but I need a demo by next month. $1 million. It was a start. I consulted a lawyer. My project didn't violate the non-compete because Miller Group was too slow to even enter the sector I was targeting. I registered the company as Microscale. 6 months later, Microscale was the talk of the mid-market tech scene. We had 12 pilot users and a waiting list. I moved into a real office. Last week, I attended a digital transformation summit. As I went to sign in, I heard a voice that felt like a lifetime ago. Ethan. Claire was standing there. She looked thinner, her gray suit sharp as a knife, but the fire in her eyes had cooled into something that looked like exhaustion. Miller. I nodded. Long time no see. She looked at my badge. CEO of Microscale. Her eyes flickered. You did it on your own. Just trying to pay the rent. I said. During the break, she found me by the coffee station. She was drinking it black. She used to hate the bitterness. Ethan, I've been thinking. I was wrong. I took you for granted. Can we start over? Not as a couple, but maybe as friends. I looked at her. The woman I had loved for 3 years was standing there, stripped of her arrogance, looking human for the first time. But my heart felt like a calm sea. No waves, no storm. Miller. I smiled and raised my paper cup. Let's just leave the past where it belongs. Good luck with everything. I walked back to my team without looking back. As I left the building that evening, the Manhattan wind was cool. I went to hail a cab, but a black Maybach pulled up. The window rolled down. I am heading uptown. I can give you a lift, Claire said. I looked at the car, then at her. I gave her a genuine, easy smile. No thanks, Miller. I pointed to the city bike rack at the corner. I'm riding today. It's faster, and I like the view. See ya. I scanned the code, hopped on the bike, and pedaled into the sunset of New York City. The wheels hummed on the asphalt, and for the first time in a long time, I was the one steering.